We call our Board of Zoning Appeals meeting to order November the 18th, 2024 at 2:35 p.m. Board members, have you all had the time to review the October meeting minutes?
Move to approve.
Second.
It has been motioned and second to approve our minutes from our October 21st meeting, 2024. All in favor, please vote by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The minutes have been approved. Our meeting statements of power reads, the Augusta Board of Zoning Appeals hears and makes decisions on applications for variances in accordance with powers granted under Section 1-4-88 of the Augusta, Georgia Code. The applicant must provide any scale drawings or plot plans, including all dimensions, pictures, or any other supporting information at this meeting. Only information presented at this meeting may be used in any future hearings regarding this petition. Any person affected by the board's decision may file an appeal with the Superior Court of Richmond County, Georgia within 30 days of the decision of the board. The meeting will be conducted in accordance with the board's bylaws and rules of procedure and the latest edition of Robert's Rules of Order, unless otherwise directed by the majority of the board in session at the time. A minimum of 10 minutes shall be afforded for the presentation of data, evidence, and opinions on each side of a petition. If more than 10 minutes is afforded to one side, then an equal amount of time shall be afforded to the other side. The board encourages participation in this hearing, and there is no restriction on who may address the board within the allotted time, but the board asks that public comments be brief, on subject, and directed to the board, not to any individual or group.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. We have two items on the agenda that have been asked to be postponed so that the applicant can continue to work on their documentation, and those are items number 3, BZA 24-31, pertaining to 3617 Bird Road, and application or petition number 4, BZA 24-32, pertaining to 512 One Mill Place. So these are two applications that have, they're not ready to move forward to be heard today, and I think we need a motion. No motion required. So Amber says no motion required. They gave written notice within a current amount of time. If anyone in the audience is here for those two applications, they will not be heard today. Okay. All right, moving forward, we'll go to item number 2, which is BZA case 24-28, and it is a petition by Dirk and Paula Meyer requesting variances from section 8-8B of the comprehensive zoning ordinance in order to reduce the eastern side setback from the required 10 feet to 0 feet to allow for completing construction of a non-permitted open-air pool house by the previous owners sitting on the east property line located at 3078 Westwood Road. Staff will present.
This is Kevin Boyd, Development Services Manager. This is a continuation, as the director stated, from our October 21st meeting, in which one of the two requests made by the applicant was approved, and this item was continued upon additional information. So at the meeting held last month, the board approved a request to reduce the required setback along the west side property line from 10 feet to 5 feet to finish construction of a garage home addition with one condition: to allow for a side setback to be reduced by 5 feet for the existing garage. And so this request, specific to reduction from 10 feet to 0 feet for finishing the pool house, was continued based on the proximity of the structure to the property line, which is basically a 0 foot basically placement of the structure. And so the board wanted more information to be presented in relation to the building code compliance aspects. And so the applicant's architect was able to provide us with revised drawings demonstrating compliance with the IRC codes as it relates to the proximity to the property line. Once we received those revised drawings we did directed those drawings to our residential plans examiner. He noted that no fire resistance is required, but that the applicant will have to meet other provisions from Section 302 of the IRC Codes 2018, one of which is compliance with the overhang and not to exceed 4 inches. And so with that, it will be all based on the building review and compliance with building codes, but that was the additional information that was presented following the meeting. And at this time, we have not received any inquiries from neighbors regarding this variance request, and that concludes staff's presentation.
All right, thanks, Kevin. Could you please state your name and your address for the record? And you've heard staff presentation. Then, of course, you can share anything you would like with the board members.
Sure. This is Paula Meyer, 1214 Peachtree Road here in Augusta. And yes, Mr. Boyd and I had a chance to go back and forth by email. He connected with Mr. Lavin, and we provided what we needed, or what was requested to provide from the architect in terms of fire-rated materials. And of course, we will make sure that everything pursuant to the code section that he mentioned will be followed with if and when we're allowed to complete the pool house.
Okay, I know Kevin said they have not heard from any objectors, but do we have any objectors in the audience for this variance request? All right, can we have staff's recommendation?
Okay. The Planning and Development staff recommends denial of the variance request as it does not meet all of the criteria established by Section 33 of the Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance of Augusta, Richmond County, Georgia. That concludes staff's recommendation.
Thank you. Do we have any comments or questions by board members? Board Member Brigham?
Ms. Myers, this may not be completely on subject, but I need to ask. On the, I'll turn my mic on, okay, I'll get it there. On the existing infrastructure, was any of it damaged in the hurricane we had?
So a tree basically came down on the wall, but thankfully I think I might have mentioned this last time, there's the 3 smaller rooms for the, or at least the layout of the concrete blocks for where the pool equipment will need to go and the restrooms. So just the top layer or so, the tree's still on it, so we're not exactly sure, but the top layer of the cinder blocks have kind of been broken off. So we just need to do a full evaluation once the tree comes off.
And I believe that box is the controls for the pool, is that not?
Yeah, there's
what it-
sort of the furthest one, you can't really see it under the branches, but the furthest one to the right is where the equipment will go.
Okay, so basically you don't know.
Yeah, the tree's still on it, but I mean, it's not
We can
finished.
all
So
relate to
based
that.
on what we can see, you can kind of see where the blocks have sort of shifted on the top 2 layers, just where the branches are sitting.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Boy, these board members are real quiet today. Anybody else have any questions or
Anything
comments?
Could I have a question? Does the staff any recommendation if we decide to approve it? Any other additional recommendation?
I could help you word one if you were looking for one, if you wanted help.
Just asking, thank you.
Well, can we get a motion from a board member or something?
I'll make a motion that we approve this variance.
I'll second. And if you want to word those conditions, I'd be interested in hearing them.
So that is a motion to approve the variance to allow for a 0-foot side setback on the east portion of the property.
It has been motion and second to approve this variance request. All in favor, please do vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, you have your approval. Your letter will go in the mail to you. All right, thank you. You need to come back quite often because they're real quiet with you. All right, have a great one.
Next up, we're going to jump down to item number 5 on the agenda, which is BZA 24-34. It is a petition by Harley Nally of Studio 3 Design Group on behalf of Anne Marie and Sam Nicholson requesting a variance from Section 8-8A of the Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance to reduce the front setback on Stovall Street from the required 30 feet to 5 feet to allow for a covered patio on the property located at 2418 McDowell Street. Staff will present.
Hi, Rachel Martin, Planning Projects Coordinator in the Planning and Development Department. This variance request involves approximately 0.27 acres located at 2418 McDowell Street. The property is currently zoned R1 and situated in the McDowell Street Kingsway neighborhood. The applicant seeks a variance to reduce the front setback on the western side of the property facing Stovall Street from the required 30 feet to 5 feet to replace the existing rear deck with a new patio. The lot is approximately 75 feet wide and 160 feet deep, which is the average lot size of the existing properties in the McDowell Street Kingsway neighborhood. The property is within the Somerville Historic District. Section 8-8A of the Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance requires a 30-foot minimum front setback from any structure for lots on a minor or local street in an R1 zone. The property is a double frontage lot with required front yards on both McDowell and Stovall Streets. The applicant seeks to replace the existing wood deck at the rear entry of the house with a covered brick and stone patio. The applicant states the existing wood deck has some long-standing deterioration and has proven itself difficult to maintain. Hurricane Helene compounded that damage. The deck needs to be replaced. The proposed patio will be more resilient to the effects of time and weather. It will also more adequately assimilate to the historic fabric of the neighborhood. The proposal is not consistent with the 2023 Comprehensive Plan. The proposal must be approved by the Historic Preservation Commission. At the time of completion of this report, no inquiries were received by staff concerning this variance application. And that concludes staff presentation at this time. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Rachel. Could we please have the petitioner for this variance request, and please come over to this podium. Please state your name and your address, and if you have the authority to speak on behalf of Anne Marie and Sam Nicholson.
I'm Harley Nally. I'm an architect with Studio 3 Design Group, and I'm representing Sam and Anne Marie Nicholson.
Okay, all right. You heard staff's presentation. At this time, of course, you can share whatever you would like with the board.
So what we're proposing is to replace the existing wood deck with a covered brick patio and to enclose a second-story balcony. We're not proposing to move the proposed patio will be in the same location as the existing wood deck. So we're not proposing to move that.
So, Mr. Nally, so it's my understanding that the deck that's currently there, it's already encroaching into this space?
That's correct.
So there's no additional encroachment, you're just trying to cover it?
That's correct. We're in, it's a wood deck that has some deterioration. We're proposing replacing it with a brick and stone patio that will be covered, but in the same location.
Can I get staff recommendation?
Okie dokie. In regards to 2418 McDowell Street, Planning and Development staff is recommending denial of the variance request as it does not meet the criteria for granting variances established in Section 33 of the Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance as amended. However, should the board move to approve the applicant's request, staff recommends the following conditions. Number 1, approval of a variance to reduce the front setback from the required 30 feet to 5 feet on Stovall Street only to allow for the construction of a new patio to replace the existing wood deck. And condition number 2, that the applicant acknowledges that the Historic Preservation Committee must approve prior to demolition the existing wood deck and any new construction plans for the patio. This concludes staff's recommendation.
Okay, thanks.
Mr. Nally, are you comfortable with those conditions?
Yes.
Anybody else? If not, I'll make a motion to approve, subject to conditions.
Second.
It's been motion and second to approve subjects to the conditions by the staff. All in favor, please vote by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? You have your approval. Your letter will go in the mail to you this week. Thanks. Have a great one.
Thank you.
And last but not least, we have item number 6 on your agenda, which is BZA 24-35, and it is a petition by James Webb on behalf of Venus Morris Griffin and Mr. Tim Collins, requesting a variance from section 8-4 of the comprehensive zoning ordinance to increase the maximum accessory building area from 1,071 square feet to 3,032 square feet on the property located at 1307 and 1309 Glen Avenue. Staff will present.
Rachel Martin, Planning Projects Coordinator. This variance request involves approximately 0.82 acres located at 1307 and 1309 Glen Avenue. The property is currently zoned R1 and situated in the Trinity on the Hill neighborhood. The applicant seeks a variance to increase the maximum accessory building area from approximately 1,071 square feet to 3,032 square feet to convert the existing house at 1307 Glen Avenue into a garage on the property. The site in question is approximately 150 feet wide and 165 feet deep when combined, which is slightly larger than twice the size of existing properties within the block. Section 8-4 of the Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance states that the maximum total gross area of all accessory buildings on a lot shall be based on the area of the lot upon which they are located. For lots 10,000 square feet or larger, the maximum size is the greater of 500 square feet or 3% of the lot, whichever is greater, but never more than 1,200 square feet, resulting in a maximum permissible area of 1,071 square feet. The owners would like to combine the 1307 and 1309 Glen Avenue properties and convert the existing house at 1307 Glen Avenue into a garage on the property. The new accessory building, totaling 3,032 square feet, exceeds the prescribed maximum by approximately 283%. The structure will have electrical and water service. The applicant states the sole purpose of the 3,032 square foot accessory building is to provide additional parking spaces and a protected area for their cars. Approval of this request will not exceed the 30% lot coverage allowed in R1 zoning. At the time of completion of this report, no inquiries were received by staff concerning this variance application. And that concludes staff's presentation at this time. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. James Webb, please come to the microphone on this side. Please state your name, address for the record, and that you have the authority to speak on behalf of Venus Morris Griffin and Mr. Tim Collins. You've heard staff presentation. Then, of course, you can let us share whatever you would like to share with us.
All right, thank you. I'm James Webb, Studio 3 Design Group. My home address is 801 Montesano Avenue. I'm here to represent Ms. Venus Morris Griffin and Tim Collins. Presently, Tim Collins owns 1307 and Venus owns 1309, but they are going to combine it once they combine their relationship. So they want to get it into one piece of property. Now, as you see, 1309 is a very historic home, and there's really no space to add a garage to be attached to the house because they have a wraparound porch, and that would just, I think that would destroy the exterior view of the house. So the only other option was to purchase the house next door, which Tim Collins already owns, and he wants to deed it over to 1309. As mentioned, they have had several burglaries in that area with cars being broken into, and they have also had two vehicles stolen, but they have been returned. We're not changing any of the building sizes on the two properties. All we're doing is wanting to convert the 1307 house into a garage. The exterior will remain as is. It will look like a house from the outside like it always does. We're going to repaint it and repair the exterior where necessary. The only thing we're doing is changing the left-hand side and installing a double garage door. That way they will have an area to park some of their vehicles for protection. They do have a rather large family, and right now, on that street, a lot of the neighbors have painted the curbs yellow or had to keep them off that area, which is understandable. And then since we had the storm, then there's been nowhere to park on that area. But anyway, they'd like some additional parking space and also protected area. And that's it.
Madam Chairman, I will recuse myself on this one.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Do we have any objectors? Board Member Brigham?
Mr. Webb,
Mr. Webb, could you go back, please?
I think we'll have to ask you a few questions. I hope.
You thought you were going to get to go back to your seat that quick, Mr. Webb?
You told me. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Does your applicant have any desire to demo any of the existing?
No, so that was mentioned, but after talking with HPC, they don't like to tear down old buildings, which I don't either. So that's why we wanted to leave the exterior as it is. It will look like the same house, except we painted white with a black roof to match 1309. So they'll look like part of the same groupings of the lot.
Misunderstood my question. That was not what my question was about. It was about auxiliary buildings that already exist, such as the cottage at 1309 and whatever the other building is in back of 1307. Does your client have any plans to demo either one of those buildings?
No, we're not demolishing or changing any of the existing structures on the property. All they want to do is purchase.
If they want to convert 1307 to a garage. I understand what you want to do,
but no demolition at all.
Okay. My other question is there enough square footage in the auxiliary buildings that are being allowed to accommodate this with the auxiliary square footage that we're being given?
I can hear him.
He can't hear you.
I don't know.
Speak into your microphone.
I thought I was up. Is that better? I'm off. Okay, I'm up.
Now you're on.
Okay. Is the square footage large enough for the house at 1307 and the existing auxiliary buildings at 1307 and 1309 in this request?
Yes. That's why we're asking to have that auxiliary request add up to 3,000 square feet.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure it was all inclusive.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'll wait.
Madam Chair, I have a question.
Board Member Miles?
Mr. Webb, do your clients plan on putting any covered connection to get from the garage to the house, or how they plan on doing that? Are they planning on adding any additional buildings or construction to get from the garage to the house?
No, sir, no plans to do that because we don't want to mess up the exterior of the existing homes. So there's no plan for that.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Hey, can we get staff's recommendation?
Yes. The Planning and Development staff is recommending denial of the variance request as it does not meet the criteria for granting variances established in Section 33 of the Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance as amended. However, should the board move to approve the applicant's request, staff recommends the following conditions. Number one, that a variance be approved to increase the total gross square floor area for the accessory buildings in total between the properties up to 3,032 square feet. Condition number two is that the applicant acknowledges Section 8-4 of the Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance, which outlines the following: that accessory buildings shall not be designed and used for residential purposes. They shall not contain sleeping, cooking, and showering facilities. Accessory structures may not be used to conduct home occupations or serve as home offices. And then last but not least in that one, in no case may any accessory building have a separate electrical service. And then condition number 4 is that prior to any type of demolition or construction, the Historic Preservation Committee must approve the plans. And that concludes staff's presentation.
All right, thank you, staff.
I have a question.
Board Member Trulock.
This question is really for staff, and maybe, Mr. Webb, you can clarify for me as well. Okay. So as I understand the recommendations, should this be approved, the accessory buildings that are currently on the property, which are 2, not inclusive of the one that we're discussing right now, would have to fall in line with the conditions of, I guess it would be 2A, which is they're not designed to be used for residential purposes. B, shall not contain sleeping, cooking, or showering facilities. C, not used to conduct home occupations. Or D, have no separate electrical service. I'm wondering, Mr. Webb, do these current buildings, do they fall in line with that now?
I can't say for sure. I know the one on 1307 is empty. It's one large room, and we're not doing anything to the existing buildings. Now, we do have existing power and electrical to that house, which we thought we would just keep to operate the lights, and the generator to charge the cars. You know, right there, we can have it run from the house, but then that might overload that, you know, the transformer and all that.
And then what about the building on 1309, Glenn?
The one on the back, I'm not sure how it's used.
But agreeing to these terms, they would be restricting themselves, correct?
So in this case, because you already have one of the they're both 2 separate residences, there is no expectation that they're going to combine power sources. We understand and know that they're going to be separate. It already pre-exists. So the pre-power situation as it stands now will not hinder them from developing it, and we will not require them to change that.
Okay, so I just want to make sure that the applicant understands, or that I understand, that if, for example, one of those accessory buildings were currently being used as a residence, that this would not restrict that because it's already in use. Is that correct?
If one of the
Or let's say as
the accessory structure,
in-law cottage.
Okay. The accessory structures currently on the property are not permitted to be used as accessory dwelling units. So that's existing already. That's going to change in a couple months, weeks. Some of you got your invitation about the zoning ordinance. So that's going to change probably sometime next year. But as of right now, there are no approved accessory dwelling units on that property.
Okay, I just don't want the applicant to unknowingly restrict themselves.
Okay, so I can reread it just to clean it up a little bit. How does that sound?
Could I ask you to clarify D in 3D, because it kind of contradicts what you just said.
Right, that's why if you'll let me clean it up.
And let me see, can I get some order here, because I got Turner, Board Member Turner been trying to get in here too, so y'all kind of cross-talking. If y'all can please be patient with us today, and we will get through this.
I'm finished.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think what we're looking for is if there is a non-conforming use or it's been grandfathered in, we don't want to end that. And that's what we're looking for in terms of language help here.
There is no non-conforming use that is approved.
Okay.
So that's why we haven't cited it.
Okay,
But if you will allow, I'd like to clean it up based on the comments.
yes.
Mr. Brigham had a comment first, though, I'm sorry.
Okay, Mr. Brigham.
I'm more concerned about, and I think it's the auxiliary building structure is being used as living quarters, because I believe the one at 1309 is being used as a living quarters already. I think it's rented. I think the apartments that are being rented, they've been that way since, that I know of, since the 1960s. And I don't want to put language in there to change that. Now, I don't care about 1307, but 1309, I think we need to leave the living quarters alone.
All right, staff, and then maybe she can also address board members' mouths.
Okay. All right. So based on what we have record of, if there was an accessory dwelling unit or portion of this parcel being rented out for use as a dwelling unit, they would have had to register the property. They would have had to identify it as a mother-in-law suite. There are provisions within our ordinance that allow for a mother-in-law suite under the existing ordinance. We don't have anything to that record. And that would have been the appropriate steps that would have been taken to ensure that. In addition to that, I think that we can clarify this further by saying that should the board move to approve, we would recommend that one, that the variance top out for accessory structures at 3,032 square feet, and that two, that the applicant acknowledge section 8-4 of the comprehensive zoning ordinance, which outlines the following, and that is that A, accessory building shall not be designed and used for residential purposes. B, they shall not contain sleeping, cooking, and or showering facilities. And C, the accessory buildings may not be used to conduct home occupations or serve as offices. We would delete the D option. And then, of course, 3 would be HPC must approve plans prior to any building permits or demolition being issued, demolition permits.
Okay, Mr. Webb, you heard staff recommendations.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you agree with the staff?
Yeah, like I said, we're not changing any of the structures, how they're used or whatever. Now, like I said, that back house, I'm not sure, but I could ask the owner to present a letter how that space is used. Or ask them. I could get you some back information on that. But we're not changing anything that hadn't been there for years. The only thing we're doing is changing the house to a garage.
Okay, staff, you have anything after hearing what Mr. Webb just stated?
No, ma'am.
I move to approve based on staff recommendation.
Could you please turn on your mic and,
I move to approve based on staff recommendation. Second.
it has been motioned and second to approve with staff recommendations. All in favor, please vote by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed?
I abstain.
Likewise, due to a professional relationship, I'll abstain.
So do I. I also abstain.
Okay,
We're gonna do a
have
roll call.
We're gonna do a roll call vote. Go ahead, Amber.
All right, so Board Member Williams, how did we vote? Approve. Approve. Mm-hmm. Board Member Rowe?
Board Member Rowe?
Now I hear you. I approve. I can't answer. I don't hear my name.
Yes, she called your name, Amber.
I did not hear her. I heard you.
Board Member Miles, how do you vote?
Abstain.
She's speaking to the mic.
Morris, how do you vote?
Approve.
Board Member Morton?
Approve.
Board Member Brigham?
Approve.
Board Member Turner?
Abstention.
All right, so that's 2 abstains and 1, 2, 3. Ooh, I gotta get you. I'm sorry, True Law.
I abstain.
Abstain, okay. 3 abstain. 4-5 approval.
And I recuse myself.
Recuse yourself, I got you.
Okay.
All right, so it's been approved. All right, the letter will go in the mail. Thanks, sir.
Thank y'all very much.
All right, have a great one.
Samuel Miller Law Department, nothing for the legal session.
All right, meeting has been adjourned.
And y'all, just so y'all know, if a person asks me for